name it Health Hero 2 for you.
Okay, cool.
Do you meditate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. I want to talk about that a little bit too. All right, sweet. So, Tim, thank you so much for being on the Mindful Impact podcast today. Tim's calling all the way from what state?
Oregon.
Oregon. Perfect. Sometimes I want to say Oregon, but it's Oregon.
No, it's Oregon. I just call it, or I was just joking because some people say Oregon. It's funny.
Okay, perfect. Tim, the first question I want to ask you, what as a health hero, what did you eat so far today? Well, what is it, 10 o'clock a.m. there right now, or 11?
It's 9:07
Oh, it's
a.m.
3 hours. Okay, so it's 9. What have you eaten today?
So far I had a glass of triple purified, restructured, alkalized, electrically charged water. And then I had another scoop of that with our green 85 juice formula. It shook that up, so it's like a real quick green juice. And then I took some of my supplements and stuff with it, and a couple other supplements from other companies. But I usually typically don't eat until after 11 a.m., usually around 1 to 2. And then some days now I only eat, one meal a day. So that's a big difference from when I grew up as a kid, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'd get up and make bacon and egg and, omelets and, everything, and have a huge breakfast and stuff. But, that led me to all my health issues. So when I switched to root on that, I got my energy back. And at 47, I feel like I'm 19. I did a trail run this morning. So my food this morning was nature and good, clean air. And it was awesome.
That's really cool. That's awesome. What, on this subject of health, like what, let's just get right down to it. What makes you an expert on this? Like, how did you become so knowledgeable and share this information out?
Well, I wasn't, 10 years ago. And I'm always learning. So, it's kind of weird. I guess, I've kind of saying the word expert, I guess it's because I've healed myself. That's number one. And then now I've helped thousands of other people heal themselves. So I guess if you want to give me the term expert, that's fine. But I just try to
Sure.
lead by example, and I'm trying to get results based. So, but back in the day, man, I grew up over to Eastern Oregon on a cattle and hay farm. I grew up hunting and fishing, deer, elk, chuckers, pheasants. We did all that kind of stuff, and standard American diet. We did have a big garden, so we had, fresh vegetables and stuff in the summer and the fall. But other than that, it was just like the all cooked diet, meat and potatoes was a big deal because my mom and dad grew up kind of during the, depression mentality. They're a lot older, they're in their 80s, and a lot of cabbage, so meat and potatoes was like a big deal. So that's what I grew up on. And, I played baseball at a high level for 30 years, fast forward until I was 37, but I was 38 pounds overweight. I had eczema on both of my elbows and a huge patch on my knee, and they would crack and bleed on my shirts and on people's couches. And then I had another big patch of skin, like fat bubbling up on my shoulder, and it was terrible. I didn't sleep well. I wasn't, my energy was down. I had acid reflux really bad, so I was eating tons of Rolaids all day long. And then I started for 2.5 years. My bowel movements were they were kind of like rock hard, and I was bleeding rectally when I'd go to the bathroom. I found out I had leaky gut syndrome, and the foods that I was eating just didn't really do a good job, but nobody told me about changing my diet. The doctor just wanted me to go on medications or take Prilosec for my heartburn, and it just sounded weird. So I was a freaking mess. Eventually I had to have an organ taken out on a vacation, ruined the whole vacation for my whole family, and ended up coming back into the States in a wheelchair. And that wasn't fun. So, and then what happened was my buddy got cancer on my baseball team, and we lost him. Calais died 80 pounds under his weight and left 3 little boys behind. And it was terrible. But so this kind of started freaking me out, Justin, because what happened was like my grandma died of brain cancer. My aunt died of skin cancer. And then, but you think people get older, they die of stuff like, whatever. And you don't think much about it, but Clay was like my age and he had died of cancer. So that was the first like, whoa, well, maybe it was weird. Maybe he got stomach cancer because he chewed tobacco or something. That kind of makes sense. And then after that, my buddy, who was a vegetarian, the healthiest of all of us, Charles, he got diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which is a blood cancer. And at the time, and I don't think it's changed, that's supposedly incurable by Western medicine. And they said, look, there's not much we can do for you, but when it gets real bad, we'll hit it with chemo and that'll knock it back a little bit. But then when it comes back the second time, there's nothing we can do. We'll put you probably on an experimental drug. And the hope is that we come up with a cure before you die. That is literally what they told him. So he's an entrepreneur like me, and he's like, screw this. I got a 14-year-old son. I want to live. So he found this place in Florida called the Hippocrates Health Institute. They're at the time, like a 60, 61-year-old alternative health clinic. They teach about detox and nutrition. He's like, dude, I got cancer, broke the news to me. I'm devastated. I'm like, here goes another, I'm losing another friend at age 43 again. And but he said, hey, I want you to go to this place with me and support me. My wife can't get away with me right at the time because she's got her businesses and stuff. And I'm like, whatever you need. So we get on the plane flight and he's like, oh yeah, man, by the way, when we get there, there's no meat, no dairy, no salt, no sugar. There's nothing cooked over 115 degrees. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm like just trying to, what did you just say? And then, and he
Yeah.
said it again. I'm like, think about it. I grew up hunting and fishing. We had a meat pit, meat saw, meat grinder. We made our own hamburger, sausage, jerky, all that stuff. And he said there's no meat. And I was like freaked out because I thought you had to have it for muscle and just, I don't know, I was kind of ingrained to be a man, So we get there, we do the deal, and they put us on these fresh waters, fresh green juices twice a day, all living food salads, sprouted nuts, sprouted seeds, sprouted grains, sprouted beans. And then it changed our diet from what I was on, which was high acid, low alkaline, or excuse me, high acid, low oxygen, to a very high alkaline, high oxygen diet. And then they started teaching us about the digestive tract. So the first class I went to was called Internal Awareness. And it was a 3.5-hour lecture by this doctor who comes out who's just jacked. I mean, he's got these huge muscles, and I'm like, wow. And I'm like, dude, this guy looks great. I found out afterwards it was his birthday that day. He just turned 50. And I thought he was maybe 40, maybe. He looked fantastic. And he's like, yeah, I haven't had meat in 10 years. And I'm like, what? So now I'm like, now my mind's, these guys are just blowing my mind. I'm like, I can't believe it, but this guy's not lying to me. And then he starts talking about food. And from the time you eat food till it enters your mouth until the time to exit your body, he explains every process from the time you chew it, what goes on with the saliva glands, all the way down to your stomach and the duodenum, into the small intestine and through the colon, and out it goes. And he explained all that. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And what we found out was, Justin, is that the average person is packing around about 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material and mucoid plaques lining the small and large intestine. And it's nasty stuff. And he literally pointed to me and he said, Tim, you got 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag, and you need to get that cleaned out if you ever want to have really good health and not have to worry about sickness and disease as you age. And I was like, I didn't want to do it. So they were selling us on what was called a colonic or colon hydrotherapy session. Have you heard of those?
Yeah. You shove the thing up your butt and you clean it out, right?
Yeah, you basically, for those people listening, you sit on a tube rectally and water gently goes in and out of you for an hour and it cleans you out. So when he said that, I remember elbowing Charles and I'm like, dude, I flew across the United States to tell people, and I'm not doing that deal. But when this doctor got done talking, I'm like, I was the first one up there signing up. The next day I go in, they weigh me. I do the 1-hour colon hydrotherapy session, and then they weigh me again. And guess what? I dropped 10 pounds of impacted fecal material out of my colon. Think about that. It's nasty funk and gunk and junk. The record at the Institute was like 27 pounds one lady lost in one session.
Is that stuff that's like that's in there for a long time, or is it just always just that amount is just in there?
No,
And
it's
just
been in there.
changing?
It's been in there for a long time, and the number one reason why is because people aren't drinking enough water. So they're eating cooked processed foods that are nasty. So what ends up happening is you get all this funk and gunk and junk in there, and then it starts breeding harmful organisms, viruses, bacteria, molds, yeast, fungus, parasites, mutagens. Cancers love it because it's a very low oxygen, high acid area. And what the doctor said, he's like, look, your colon is a waste removal system, not a storage tank. And unfortunately, with people's lifestyles, a sedentary lifestyle, lack of drinking water, and cooked and processed foods, it accumulates over time, right? Over time, little bit by little bit. And people don't understand, just when you take your small and large intestine and lay it out, like the surface area is the size of a tennis court. So there's a lot of surface area there. And it's just, think about it, just a light film of funk and gunk, and it all weighs up to about 6 to 12 pounds. So I got that stuff out. I've learned how to keep it out through daily detoxing. And that's what we've helped our clients do as well.
It's so thanks for sharing that story, Tim, and I totally understand now where you're coming from. I have so many questions to ask you about this, trying to figure out where to start. Let's start with your buddy as a vegetarian. Well, how is he now, by the way?
He completely healed himself with no chemo, no radiation, no surgery, nothing. It took him about 2.5 years on the lifestyle.
Okay.
I remember Well, in the
What's the
beginning
difference
too.
between his vegetarian and what he's doing now? Can you answer that one with a story you're
Well,
telling
so when
too?
he was vegetarian, he was just a sloppy vegetarian. So he was still drinking wine, eating a lot of cheese, which is a dairy products, and
Okay.
stuff like that.
Cooking a
And
lot of it.
yeah, he's just eating crappy foods, lots of sugar,
Ah,
ice cream and stuff like that. So I mean, you could go to McDonald's and be a vegan or whatever. So what they teach you is just eat a plant-based diet to heal, right? Now, for those of you listening, I don't want you to shut your ears off and say, I'm never going to do that because I like meat. So I get it. It's like, and that's what we teach. We meet people where they're at.
yeah.
Changing your diet's not the most important thing in the beginning, even though it is monumental. We've learned that we have to get the digestive tract clean. We have to purify the blood, the fat, and the muscle tissue. So anyway, that's the foundation. So anyway, while we were there, we went through this detox period. So as you start changing your lifestyle and doing all these waters and green juices and stuff and colonics, your body starts dumping all the toxins. So they told us that in the first 10 days, you're going to dump about 60% of everything that your body has bioaccumulated. And then it takes 7 more years to get rid of the other 40%. And of course, they've been doing this for over 60 years. They have a whole medical staff. They do blood work. They do all kinds of stuff on you when you're there. And so the first 10 days, the first 4 or 5 days of that 10-day dump is not fun. That's what they call the detox or the cleanse, or at the Institute, they call it healing. It's like surgery without a knife is what they call it. Your body is pushing stuff out. So what ends up happening is you can get things like fatigue, night sweats, cold and flu-like symptoms. I had a metallic taste on my tongue as all the heavy metals were exiting my body from the fish I'd eaten, or the aluminum particles that we breathe in through the air from like chemtrails, or I grew up on a farm, and one time I was siphoning gas out of my dad's pickup to put it in my motorcycle. Actually, I did all the time, but I swallowed a bunch of it. So I had a bunch of stuff in my body, and had to push it out, or toxic chemicals that I put on my skin from whatever shampoos and stuff.
Yeah.
So it started coming out. Now, some people I didn't have it as bad as most. I got very irritable, and I was like, God, I hope to God tomorrow this just goes away. Because they said either Thursday or Friday, you're going to feel really great when you wake up. And I was like, please, tomorrow, Thursday, not Friday. And I did. I woke up, I felt amazing on Thursday. But some people had
Interesting.
rashes breaking out all over their body, on their face. I saw people, we'd be having lunch, and people would have parasites crawling out of their pores. One lady had a parasite crawling out of her
You're
eye.
kidding me.
So why was this? Because again, we have our bodies in a very high acid, low oxygen environment. That is a perfect fertile ground for these harmful organisms. And when you change it radically to high oxygen, high alkaline, they pack their bags and leaves, because it becomes inhospitable. So they leave. And
Yeah.
that's the surgery without a knife. That's the detox, right? So what we've done is we've developed a program so that people can detox gently without all these major symptoms while they're working, raising their kids, taking care of parents, whatever they're doing. So it's very gentle, right? So
Okay.
in 2.5 years, Charles literally heals himself of his cancer, and he's fine today. He went from bankruptcy and cancer diagnosis to thriving business, um, uh, very healthy. He's ran 6 marathons. I ran the first one with him. It was an epic moment that I'll never forget. It was kind of he wasn't quite technically, cancer free at that point in time, but we ran that marathon. We crossed the finish line together, and it was just like an epic moment, because I feel like we completed that journey, right? And then 6 months later, his blood work was beautiful, and he was fine. He got to see his son graduate high school, go to father-son weekends during college when he was going to Oregon State University. And we get to hang out and play guitar now. So we both
That's
started
great.
picking up guitar, and it's real fun.
That's amazing. Well, I'm so happy for your friend and that worked. My question to you is, so I mean, if someone like him, he has a business. Is it in this field, the health field, or is it something else?
No, he's a mortgage professional.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's able to maintain this chemically free, or whatever we want to call what you, yeah, do you call it chemical free eating? Is that what you
Well,
want to call it?
I mean, I guess you could call it that, but he just eats a plant-based lifestyle. He eats
Okay.
plant-based, he eats clean. We try to eat fresh foods.
Okay. And
You know.
the reason I asked that is because I know, I'm a father of a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, or 2-year-old and a 5-year-old married. Um, my business isn't in the health industry like yourself. So
Mhm.
for you to, you able to constantly focus on it, constantly think about it,
Oh
make
yeah.
sure you're doing right. So for somebody that is quote unquote, and I have my internet marketing business, um, how does somebody like that, can you expect somebody to maintain that kind of a strict, would you call it strict lifestyle? Because or once you figure it out, is it simple to just follow and keep moving along with?
Yeah. Well, there's basically two camps. There's the people like Charles that have cancer, their backs against the wall, their guns to the head. They need to adopt this lifestyle rapidly, and they will because they have they want to do it because they want to live, right? So they're willing to take the effort and go full on. Then there's the other camp of people that, they want to lose some weight, like you. Maybe they're healthy and they're fairly healthy, but they want to continue to be healthy and they want to be a good example to the kids. They want to make sure their kids don't get sick because we're seeing the rise in childhood. I mean, children are being born obese. Children are being born with type 2 diabetes. The number one killer of children used to be accidents all the way up to 16. And
Yeah.
now from 0 to 5, it's no longer accidents. It's brain cancer. And which is, think about that. Brain cancer is now the number one killer for kids 0 to 5.
Didn't know
And
that.
then from 5 to 16, accidents is still number one, but right behind it's number two is a tie between brain cancer and lymphoma, leukemia, and that kind of stuff. So, we've got some major problems. Just to touch base. So, human beings we are the sickest we've ever been in the history of the human race at this point in time right now. We've never been sicker, especially over here in the Western world. So, to answer your question, it's for the other camp, it's baby steps. It's not trying to do it all at once. We try to get people to just do some of the basic stuff. And this might be a good segue where I teach our core four secrets, if you don't mind. It's really
Yeah, that'd
important for
be
people. It's
perfect.
free.
Perfect.
I had over close to 5,000 people to my house doing juicing classes and raw living food dinners and talking to lots of folks. And most of those people, I'd say probably 3/4 of them had cancer. Okay. Because my whole story came from Charles and cancer, and that's how it spread. And then people just kept coming to our house for these dinners and juicing classes. So what we learned is that, and I sold a lot of juicers because I healed myself through juicing. So I told our program, this is what we did. It's how we did it. And people just copied us. And problem was, in about 3-4 months, the juicer was under the cupboard, maybe 1 to 3 months, and down there, and they weren't using it anymore. Right.
I'm
Yeah.
one of those people a few years
Right,
ago.
right. Because they didn't get the full immersion. They didn't, like we did, and they didn't really understand the power of juicing and what it was all about. So, and how to juice properly. Because when I juiced before, I even went to Hippocrates, but I did it wrong. I was juicing lots of carrots and beets and apples, so it was just lots of sugar. So it didn't work. And sugar feeds all disease. So anyway, what we did was I went back and I interviewed 100 people. I'm like, why aren't you doing this? And they said it was too hard, too time consuming, and I don't want to clean that damn juicer, and it's too expensive because it works out to about $5 to $8 a juice. So I'm like, okay. I went back to the drawing board. I'm like, what are the 3 things that I could share with people that would make the most difference in their life with the least amount of effort? And then later we added a 4th one. So core secret number 1 is drink half your body weight in liquid ounces of purified water daily. It's an absolute game changer. Okay. Now, if you live in the city, then your water needs to be restructured because the high pressure pipes in the city make the molecules of water clustered and they get too big. They're like a bowling ball. Picture your intestinal lining like a chain link fence, and the water clusters are coming through like bowling balls. They just bounce off. They don't go through. It just goes through your body and you pee it out. So that's what I experienced for almost 8 years. I drinking tons of water. I was teaching people to drink tons of water, half your body weight in liquid ounces daily. And everybody's like, I'm peeing a lot. I'm like, me too. That's what you should be peeing. You should be peeing about 9 to 13 times a day, on average about 11. And that was just what I thought happened. A few years ago, I learned about restructured water for city tap water. And then all of a sudden I drank this water and it just disappeared. And I drank another quart and it disappeared 15 minutes later. And I drank another quart in 15 minutes, it disappeared. And then 2 hours later, I had to pee a lot. Right. So it finally got through the intestinal wall. Like it made it that bowling ball like sand. And you throw sand through a chain link fence, it just went right into the intestinal wall, into the bloodstream. So my body could actually use it. We had one client do this one strategy and she dropped 50 pounds in 8 months. Her name was Carol. So it's a very powerful strategy. And again, it's one of the number one reasons people have, arthritis, if you have brain fog, if you have an impacted colon, which most of us do. That the reason why is because you're not drinking enough water. And if your body doesn't have enough water, and we know that 95% of you are not drinking enough, the first place it goes for water is the colon. And then the colon becomes dry And that's where it becomes impacted over time because it's not lubricated enough. Make sense?
Yeah.
So, and the difference between having enough water and not having enough water is the difference between you finding your car keys or hunting around for 10 to 15 minutes. It literally lowers IQ when you don't have enough water. So it's a huge deal. It's the lubricant of life. I believe water is sacred and it really needs to be purified and restructured. That's core secret number one. And
Well,
less
let
than
me, can I
5% of
pause?
people are doing it.
Can I pause you for a second, Tim?
Yeah.
So you said what can we do to the water, like purified water, like you're just out of the fridge that has the purification
No,
thing on it?
that's a filter. That's not
Okay,
purification.
that's not purified. So how do we purify our water?
So
What do we have to do?
purification, there's three types that I know of: reverse osmosis, de-ionization, and distillation. And I really don't like distillation because the vapor valve goes back into the house and releases the toxins into the air. So I don't like that one, and it's a pain in the butt to clean the machine. That has been my experience. I've spent thousands of dollars. I think I'm on my sixth water unit now, and I combined two of them. So the cheapest way to do it is to get yourself gallon glass jars, not plastic, because you don't want those xenotoxins, BPAs and BPBs and C's and D's and E's and all these other things, BPS in there, which cause hormonal issues. But use a gallon glass jar and just go to your local grocery store and at least get single purified water. That'll remove 90% of the contaminants. That's only 25 to 44 cents a gallon at your local grocery store. And again, reverse osmosis, distillation, or de-ionization. And they usually have that. The next step up is to buy yourself a kind of midline purifier. That'll run you 200 to 400 bucks, right? Or you can step up and spend about 1,500 to 2,000, get a triple purification unit with all these stages and stuff and do that like we do. And then after that, behind it, we have a unit that actually restructures the water and then charges it with molecular hydrogen. That unit was about $5,000. But those two combinations now, I have the most amazing, I can literally get high on water every day. And I do.
Okay, so you actually noticed, you literally noticed like you didn't pee as much because your body was absorbing the water more. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. It was no
Okay.
question. And believe me, I was I guess an expert on water because I was preaching it and teaching it for almost 8 years,
Yeah.
living it and breathing it and teaching other people how to do it. And now my clients that set up the same system that I have, their life changes because once you have the water that's not just purified, you want to have clean water. You don't want all this crap in it. You want purified water and you want it to be restructured. When you have restructured water, when you take supplements like our Green 85 juice formula, or even eating your food, you're going to get 80% more absorption of your nutrients. Think about that. That is a massive statement that I just made. So 80% more because you have the liquid actually able to get the nutrients into the cell. So it's a big deal. And the pollution is so bad today that even 1,500 miles into the interior, they've studied little 2 and 2.5 inch fish, and they have both now male and female organs. They're turning into hermaphrodites. Why? It's because of these estrogen mimicking plastics. That's the problem from plastic bottles and, polyester shirts. I don't wear any polyester anymore because it's processed and off gases right into your body. And these lead to breast cancer, prostate cancer, ovarian cysts, uterine cysts, man boobs. So that's why, when I heard man boobs, that's when I was like, I'm not doing plastic anymore. Like I'm done. So if you look at my water bottle here, it's glass.
Yeah.
I drink out of glass and I always make sure. And if I don't have my purified restructured water, I ain't drinking it. I'm just not going to do it. I don't drink tap water ever again. There's just no way. I know too much about it.
So you're one of those guys that goes around with a glass jar of water every in the car and where he goes, right?
Yeah, I pack my water with me.
That's great.
Yeah. And the reason I do is because I know what the option is and I love myself.
What about those Berkey? You never hear those Berkeys or whatever those
Yeah,
are?
those are a pretty good gravity fed water system, water filter.
Yeah.
They're not like as good as a purifier, but man, like if you're up in a cabin or you're on vacation or if that's what you can afford, those are pretty good. I actually bought that one for my mom and dad because they have some well water and we use that for that. Their water's so rough it would destroy one of the units that we have.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like $5,000. Why ruin it?
Right. Okay. So that's secret number one. And then you said there's a couple more.
There's 3 more. And that one's the longest one because it's a big deal. Okay. I'm just telling people, like, if you just do this one thing, your life's going to change.
Well, my wife, so the 2-second story, my wife, she's like, oh, here you go again, telling me to drink water. I'm always harping on her that she doesn't drink enough water, like for the past 3 years. And so literally yesterday, it's funny you're saying this. Yesterday, she's been drinking a lot more water because she bought this like fancy thing, cup that she loves so much that sparkles. that is unfortunately plastic. But at least she's drinking water. And I made a
Mhm.
comment and she's like, "Oh, you're proud of me now, finally, because I'm actually drinking more water." I'm like, "Yes." But she's peeing like 20 times more. But
Yeah, that'll change. That'll change once you get the right stuff set up. And if people have questions, they can always reach out to us. We'll hook them up on the water stuff. So anyway, less than 5% of people are doing the water deal properly. I was one of them. Core secret number 2. Now that you're chewing your water, or excuse me, now that you're drinking enough water, you chew your food until liquefied. That doctor taught us that. He said it's the first step in digestion. It's the first domino to fall when you eat. And the reason why is because you have 2 ducts in your upper mouth and you have 4 ducts in your lower mouth. They secrete enzymes amylase and lipase. These break down your starches and your fats. So you chew your food really good. You mechanically break it down into smaller pieces. That way your digestive tract has less of a burden to break it down. And then those enzymes down there are going to break all that stuff down. Now, for those of you worried about the protein, already in your gut, you have hydrochloric acid and a substance called pepsin. That's going to break that down. Once it's all done, shaken and baking, it goes through the duodenum and it goes from acid to alkaline and then it goes into the intestinal tract and then it goes through the intestinal lining into the bloodstream. That's how it works. So if you don't chew your food until liquefied, you're going to have fermentation and gut rot, and you're going to slowly over the years start destroying, like I did, my intestinal villi, those little hair-like structures that line the intestinal tract that move our food through us through that peristaltic action, also pull the nutrients through the intestinal lining into the bloodstream. You don't want that. We want digestion and absorption of nutrients, not fermentation and gut rot. So chewing your food is monumental. And I picked up something a few years later. Dr. Gabriel Cousens said that when you chew your food really, really well, you're actually stimulating meridian points that actually uptake your serotonin by up to 500%. So that's the happy juice. How many people are depressed out there and are buying serotonin supplements? If you just chew your freaking food really well, you can replace the supplement naturally. It's amazing. So that's a big statement right there as
yeah,
well.
that's
It's pretty cool. And guess what? Less than
powerful.
4%, less than 4% of people are doing that one. Core secret number 3. Now you're drinking water, you're chewing your food good. Now you avoid liquids with meals. Okay. Now, why would you want to do that? Because you worked really hard to chew your food. You put those enzymes, amylase and lipase down there. And if you drink purified restructured water or wine or beer or apple juice or whatever, you're now going to dilute those enzymes and you're going to go from digestion and absorption of nutrients back to fermentation and gut rot. And you don't want it. So the rule of thumb is for beginners, stop drinking liquids 30 minutes before you eat and then wait 1 hour after you're done eating and then drink a lot of liquids again. If you're stage 4 something, you're an Olympic level athlete, or you just want to look and feel your best, stop drinking an hour before you eat and then wait 2 hours after you're done and then drink a lot of liquids again. And this is a radical game change. We have people that their gas and the bloating start going away considerably. Now, some of their gas and bloating is from improper food combining and their gut's still plugged up, but we've seen massive results with this. Less than 2% of the population is doing this tactic, and it really works good. And then the last one, core secret number 4, is when you right before you sit down to have your lunch or your dinner or your meal, you just simply do some breath exercises. It's just like this. You take a big deep breath in through the nose, and then hold, and then release out through the mouth. Just let it all go and start calming your nervous system. Pause, and then back in through the nose and hold, and then release out through the mouth. And you'll repeat this process. And as you're doing this breath work, this is only a minute or two. It's not very much, just a minute, just 1 minute. Start off with a minute or two. You're going to take yourself out of fight or flight mode and put yourself back into rest and digest mode. People probably heard of that sympathetic versus the parasympathetic nervous system. Why is this a big deal? Because we live in a stressed out environment. And even if you don't think you're stressed, you are, because we have environmental stress, EMF stress, relationship stress, career stress, COVID stress, blah, 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 blah. All these stresses.
Yeah.
Your body can't recognize the difference. It still thinks a saber-toothed tiger is chasing you. So the blood leaves the organ systems, the digestive engine, and goes out to the extremities so you can fight or flight. And that's not good for digestion. So by simply taking a few breaths in and out, the blood rushes back into the organ systems, and now you can digest your food properly. Less than 1% of the population is doing this, Justin. Now, what we've seen is now that we went international this year and we started shipping worldwide, and because of the COVID and the supply chain delays, it can take sometimes 2 weeks up to a month for our products to arrive in like Australia or the UK or Ireland or wherever. And here's what's happening. Somebody will hear me on a podcast. They go in, they order products, but in the meantime, they start implementing these core 4 secrets. We're getting emails coming in daily. There's people are saying, hey, look, man, I'm already feeling better. I have more energy. I have more mental clarity. I have less gas and bloating. I'm feeling better. I'm actually pooping better. And we get these in, and the products haven't even arrived yet. This is just so these core 4 secrets are our foundation. This is the foundation to our program. We have people pay us thousands of dollars to get coached privately one-on-one. And I also have a group coaching, and then the products are just part of our toolkit. And we have a much bigger toolkit that we share with people, and it's all about lifestyle. So anyway, those are the core 4 secrets, and they're game changers.
I mean, I've had a lot of different individuals. I've had a gut health expert on my podcast that has a probiotic. I've had one of the things I want to ask you is I had somebody, an Ayurveda expert. Does this have, is this related to that at all? Some of that philosophy of the Ayurveda eating lifestyle? Because when you say not cooking, when you say, being mindful before you eat and taking breath work, it sounds like some of it's in that
Well,
realm.
our formulator, Dr. Scott Treadway, actually trained in India under 2 clinics with thousands of years of apprenticeship. So he became a master herbalist in Indian culture, Chinese herbology, and Western herbology. Then he came back and did 10 years of clinical work, seeing patients on a daily basis. And he's been a formulator now. He's at 37 years. But the cool thing is he's like 70 and his skin looks like he's 35. So he's walking the walk, right? So
it'd be
our
amazing.
program, what's that?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. My thought was it would be amazing if doctors had this knowledge. You know what I mean? At least so when you go see them, they can help you out a little bit differently with.
So I kind of just, I learned from different people, and the Institute got me on track, a lot of it, but I learned a lot. And then I put together this program called the Gut Detox Guide. And then I shared it with Dr. Treadway, and he's like, Tim, this is really crazy. But he goes, your protocol is almost exactly what I was teaching people in my clinic. And he's like, how did you come up with this? And I was like, well, I got a lot from the Hippocrates Health Institute, but it was just common sense. It was just working with people on it. I worked with over 600 individuals one-on-one, and you learn a lot, and you learn what works and what doesn't work. Right. So you just learn these things. And the other thing is about the food and not cooking. I don't know if that's Ayurvedic, but for me, that's common sense, because I thought about this, and think about it, Justin. How many creatures on this planet cook their food? One species.
Right. Us. Yeah.
Humans. And we have all the problems. Every single species on this planet eats a 100% raw living food diet. And we're the ones that have all the problems. And the only animals that have problems are the ones we've domesticated, like our pets and zoo animals. And then they fall apart too.
So
right?
True.
Right. And then there's all these things I learned. Like I studied the Max Planck Institute in Germany, and they said that when you cook meat, as an example, you coagulate those. 50% of those proteins are instantly unusable. So now it becomes a huge burden on your digestive tract just to process them and get them out. So you're wasting a lot of your daily energy for your activities of daily living and your think just to process food that you get nothing from, right? So the more raw foods, the fresher foods you can get, the healthier you're going to be, the better you're going to feel, the less disease you're going to have, the more energy you're going to have, and you're just going to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I live myself as a balance, right? We actually try to eat less meat. We have been intentionally, mainly for environmental reasons and also, I guess, health reasons too. But what about probiotics? Do you take those, or do you suggest? I was taking a spore-based probiotic.
Oh, that's good. That's what we have. We have a spore-based probiotic and prebiotic together in a formula. So the prebiotics feed those. So the reason why you want to do spore-based is because they don't die in the stomach acid, right? Like most of them do. That's very important. And when we went to get, basically what's happening is people's digestive tract is full of these bacteria. Okay. What most people don't understand is our body is made of 380 trillion viruses, 60 trillion bacteria, and 6 trillion human cells. So we're more virus and bacteria than we are human. Think about that. So these bacteria in our gut, they're all over our skin. They're in our digestive tract. These are our defense. These protect us, okay, from the ones that aren't so good, like Candida albicans and stuff like this, or Citrobacter, which is another type of bacteria. Now you'll have that in you, but it needs to be in proper balance, right? So when you have things like stress, you kill these bacteria. When you have things like toxic pollution, automobile exhaust, jet fuel, rubber compounds off of tires that you're breathing in. All these things attached to your mucous membrane go back the back of your throat and down into your gut. Pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, larvicides, paint off gassing from your inside your house, your polyester clothing and underwear, nylons, lycras, all these things are off gassing, microfiber couches. And so we have all these toxins. These are wiping out the bacteria. If you had pharmaceutical drugs like antibiotics, one round of antibiotics, you just destroy your bacteria. This is your part of your immune system. And so you have to replenish it. So what we teach is to, get the digestive tract cleaned off, and then always be, taking these probiotics, spore-based, and then also eating things like raw fermented foods like sauerkrauts and kimchis, and Japanese folks use something called natto. I think it's kind of gross, kind of a tacky fermented soybean deal, but stuff like this. And more importantly, get outside. The soil-based bacteria, that's where these spore-based ones come from. It's the bacteria in the soil. That's why people with pets have a 50% higher immune system, because the pets are always bringing the bacteria in, and you're loving all over the pets, and they get into your body. So when you go out and get in the dirt, let the kids play in the dirt and get in as many outdoor environments as you can. That's how you build up that bacteria and keep it well.
Well, speaking of kids, how old are your kids?
18 and 20.
Okay. So there's been before that, a few years that how did you school them on this? How did you talk to them about this?
Well, I had a rough time because my kid's mom and I had split. Okay. And I had remarried, and we were splitting time with the kids. Then all of a sudden dad comes home, and I'm like, revelation, I'm changing. Right. And and when I do stuff, I'm 100%. Right. Plus I made a commitment to my buddy, Charles. I said, look, I'm going to do this with you because this seems like it's going to be a big change. Right. So, and I want you to live. So I will buddy up with you and do this with you. And I was scared, but excited at the same time. And so all of a sudden my kids went from dad making these big, delicious, beautiful pancakes and eggs and all this stuff, and bacon, egg, and cheese biscuits. And, I baked, I did it all. I love being in the kitchen. That's why I became a raw food chef, because I like being in the kitchen. It was like one of my hobbies. And all of a sudden it's like sprouts, they're having sprouted nuts and seeds and grains and beans. But I'm learning how to make all these new things. And I made these living food tacos for about 8 months, because I didn't know what else the hell to make, So finally I'm like, I got to figure this out, because I can't just eat this same thing over and over. But let me tell you what, dude, my body transformed so fast. I lost the weight in 60 days. All the skin issues were gone, except for the big patch on my knee. I lost 38 pounds, feel my ribs again. My energy skyrocketed. Instead of walking the dogs, I started running again. My mental clarity went through the roof. I went from larges and extra larges to mediums and smalls again, like I wasn't like senior in high school, freshman, college time. And I felt great. And my blood, my rectal bleeding stopped completely. My acid indigestion was gone. The day I showed up at Hippocrates, it was gone. And I've never had acid reflux since, not once. No more Tums and Rolaids. I threw those away. Learned those were really bad for you too. But I just felt amazing, man. So what I did with the kids was, I finally just had to let them do their thing, and I started making them the foods that they wanted and stuff.
Yeah.
But then eventually they came back as they got older, because, they started gaining a little weight, or they weren't feeling as good. And then I just led by example. That's what I did. So I have a new thing now. What I teach people is like how to deal with friends and family members when you're making changes. And the first thing to do is to set them down and say, hey, look, I'm going to be working on myself. I'm going to be doing some things to change my life. It's important to me. And having a real candid conversation with them, and letting them know that they don't have to feel any pressure to do anything. In fact, honey, you don't even have to make me any food anymore. Your life's going to get easier, because I'm going to make my own food. So I teach people to take complete responsibility of themselves, and then lead by example. And then what happens is, like, guess what? My wife thought I was crazy in the beginning, but in 60 days, I transformed myself. 7 months later, the juicer went on by itself. I heard it go off, and I'm like, what's going on? I walk in there, and she's making green juice. And I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm making a green juice. And she ended up going plant-based and doing all this stuff too. So now my oldest son, he's doing 1 month of plant-based, and it's really cool. And my other one became plant-based as well. Now we say that, but they're still eating a little meat here and there. But I would say they're probably 80, 90% eating mostly more plants. Big transformation. And guess what? Their bodies reflect it. Cody just called me my oldest. He's like, Dad, he goes, and I've dropped 15 pounds in 30 days. And he was so proud of himself. And I'm like, good job. That's awesome. So you have to lead by example and give them permission to change. Not that they will. Some will, some won't. That's not your job. Your job, because you can't push a rope and you can't herd cats. And it's always going to be that way. So I think the best thing to do is love self and then lead by example.
That's such a good point. I'm glad you said that. When you said about when you're deciding to make a change, let the people you're with know that you're doing something and you're going to commit to it. Um, and that they don't have to feel like they have to, or that you're going to judge them for not, or because
Yeah.
I went through that and no one's ever even actually said that before. That was pretty an eye opening statement.
Yeah. And
Appreciate
be
that.
prepared for them to make fun of you too.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially
You
your
got,
friends. A bunch of my buddies back home are like, what are you doing? We used to make fun of vegetarians. Like, I didn't even know what the word vegan was or whatever. Now I still eat, after 8.5 years of being pure plant-based, now I'll have a piece of salmon here and there or whatever, but it's minuscule. But if you caught a fish and said, hey man, I smoked some salmon, I caught it myself, I'm like, yeah, give me a piece. I'm not a freak show about it anymore. And there's no reason, there's nothing wrong with it. If I have a lot of friends that are 100% plant-based, they're never going to eat meat again. And that's fine. I don't judge, right? Maybe some people aren't emotionally ready to give up meat all the way. It's okay. And I've learned to get over that and not be a freak about it, right? And then start condemning other people when 10 minutes ago I was eating it just because I'm
right,
eating it,
right,
right?
right.
But here's what happened. Now a lot of my friends are calling me up because they're having major health issues. Their children are having major health issues. And they're calling me. Why? Because I've stuck to it year after year after year. I haven't varied, and I've got the results. I have the results. So I'm walking, talking proof that it's possible. And
Yeah.
that's what we teach people. It's like a lead by example.
Yeah. Consistency. It's important. And what about something like impossible meat? What are your thoughts on that?
Most of that stuff is pretty nasty. It's pretty nasty. I personally wouldn't put it in my body, but if it's what you need to do to bridge the gap to get off regular meat, I guess. I mean, it depends because a company might have 7 products and like maybe 1 or 2 of them are okay, but then maybe the other 6 or 4 are really not that good at all. I've seen this all the time. Like I'm always, because I'm a chef, I go into the stores and I go to 3 different stores all the time and I'm looking at the shelves and scanning, looking for new stuff. And believe me, when I started this journey, it was hard to find healthier plant-based
I
stuff in the
bet.
store and it was very expensive. Now there's like tons of options, but there's still a bunch of garbage out there. There's still a bunch of stuff out there that's not good. I'll give you an example. So I'm in Whole Foods. This lady's with her little daughter. She's got her cart full of stuff, and I'm looking at her cart. I'm investigating people all the time. I scan things. I'm like the Terminator, and I'm just like, And I look in there, and I see this cheese, and I see the other stuff, and she's got a plant-based milk, like a nut milk, and I'm like, oh, maybe she has a lactose intolerance or an allergy to dairy, which everybody does at some level. And I said, excuse me, are you lactose intolerant? Are you trying to avoid dairy? And she's like, yes. How did you know? I was like, well, I just kind of noticed what you're in there. I'm a chef and I'm a food coach. And I said, did you know that dairy-free cheese that you have there actually has dairy in it? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I said, here, turn it over and look on the back. Because I look at all the labels. I said, look at the ingredient there. You say where it says casein. I said, casein is the main protein in milk. And it's indigestible by humans. We don't have the substance in our body, renin, to break it down. Only baby cows have it. She's like, oh my God. She's like, I found out a year ago, I paid for these expensive tests and I was lactose intolerant. And she goes, I still was wondering why I'm not getting better. And she's, I've been eating the crap out of this cheese. And it looked like, it said like milk alternative and stuff like that. It was very deceptive and they still had it in there. People don't know. So you can't look at the front of the labels. You have to read the ingredients and you have to know what the heck's in there.
So it sounds like they'll
Otherwise,
extract like a part of what milk is, and then put it in there and say, there's not actually milk in here. There's not actually
yeah,
dairy.
yeah, it's an indigestible protein, what it is. And if you look at Dr. T. Colin Campbell's work, he was trying to help people in the Philippines, young people with protein deficiency. So he actually was doing tests on rats, and he put 5% protein and 20% protein into the rat's diet, and most of that protein was casein. At 5%, there was no problems. Up to 20%, the rats developed tumors. He'd take them off the 20% protein back to 5%, the tumors would go away. On and off. He was literally turning cancer on and off with the amount of protein from animal protein. It's very destructive to the body when you eat too much of it. The human body has a very long digestive tract. We're more geared to more plants. And that's just the way it is. And I know there's some people out there, and I have a very small amount of people that are on the all carnivore diet.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Jordan Peterson, it's worked for him. Um, but the thing of it is like, he didn't work with me. So I don't know what he was doing when he was trying to eat the other way. Right. Did he have living foods in his life? Or was he maybe eating things with acrylamides in them, or, or lectins or whatever? So I didn't get a chance to assess what he was eating before. And if I did, usually I can find some holes in it. But it's whatever works for people. I don't care what works as long as people get results. That's what we
Right.
strive.
Right. And are you, just out of curiosity, Dr. Jordan, is it the guy who wrote this book, The 12 Rules for Life? Is that the doctor, or is it somebody else?
Possibly. Is Jordan, is that the psychologist?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. I'm just,
Yeah, his doctor had some really bad issues, and because people get pretty messed up nowadays, man, with all the pollution. And in fact, people, don't take my word for it. Just type into your browser umbilical cord and chemical. Those three words, umbilical cord and chemical, and you'll see the same studies that I saw. And here, about 8 years ago, dude, I'm sitting there going online and I looked this up. I'm like, what? I saw studies going back to 2005 where these researchers and doctors were looking for 400 toxic chemicals in the umbilical cord blood of our newborns and young mothers, supposedly the healthiest of all of us. And they were finding 250 of what they were looking for. And 180 cause cancer in humans, 212 cause developmental and brain disorders. And these studies kept coming out 2007, 2010, 2012, 2013. Nobody on mainstream media is really picking up and talking about it. The scientists referred to these as a body burden. I sat back in my chair that day and I was like, oh my God, we are all polluted. We are polluted with these microscopic, no-see-em toxic chemicals, and they are destroying our immune system. They're making us weaker. We are de-evolving as a species. And I'm like, I got to get this stuff out of me. And the older you are, the more time you've had to bioaccumulate these toxins in your body, in your blood, your fat, and your muscle tissue. So you have to get that stuff out. And that's why we called our company Chemical Free Body, because I knew that if I didn't help people bring awareness to this and get this stuff out of them, they're going to suffer. And we have so many people that go to doctors for years and they just can't get better and they can't figure it out. And the doctor's like, your blood work's fine. There's nothing wrong with you. And her husband's like, you're fine. The doctor says you're fine. She's like, I'm not fine. I
right.
don't feel right. And then I'm like, well, they talked to you about detoxing? And like, no, they haven't. So then let's start there, and we start with the water and the chewing the food and avoiding the liquids with the meals and doing the breath work, and then taking some products to start cleaning the body out and nourishing the body, and then slowly changing the diet, and the energy picks up and then people want to work out again. Then they start sleeping better and the ball starts tumbling in the right direction. That's usually what happens.
Is this the same secrets to what I saw on your page there? It was like 4 secrets to healthy teeth. Because I just, teeth are, a thing.
No, that was
Is
different.
there any way you can like quickly run through those? Because I would like to. Is there a way to do that? Because teeth are a big deal. I don't know. I think about it a lot. Like,
Well, I can't remember exactly what article that was, but there's, I actually teach a class and there's 4 things. This might be them. So the things to look out for is, number one, if you have mercury fillings in your teeth, you have to get those removed. Mercury is like the second most toxic substance on the planet, yet it's okay to be put in your mouth. It's stupid. Common sense just tells you that. I don't know why people get so wrapped up in why they think it's okay to put amalgams in your body. Number 2, root canals kill people. Okay. No, it doesn't matter. I've been doing this work for a long time, and I learned this from a doctor who's been doing it for 30 years. And when I say that, I just say that to shock people. But the reality is, it's slowly doing that to you. When you do, a doctor's going to come to you, or a dentist, doctor, same thing, and they're going to say, "Hey, look, got some good news and bad news." The bad news, well, what is it? The bad news is that we need to. Your tooth's bad. Well, what's the good news? We have to remove it. What's the good news? Well, we can save it if we do a root canal. What do you want to do? Do you want us to pull the tooth, or do you want us to save it and do a root canal? What's an average person going to say?
everybody's gonna say root
Save
canal.
my
Yeah.
freaking tooth. Okay, great. You just signed up for a permanent systemic infection in your body your immune system's going to have to deal with it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Inside of our teeth, in the front teeth and all teeth, we have these things called dental tubules. Look them up. And we have about 2 to 3 miles of them in the front teeth and about 7 to 9 miles in the back teeth because they're bigger. These are microscopic little tubes that can hold bacterium, and bacterium can stack 6 wide in these things, and they'll slowly fill up with bacteria, and they'll start pouring into your body, and your immune system has to deal with it. Not once, not twice, but dozens and dozens of times with my clients. I'll say, you have a root canal? Because that's the first thing I do when I'm doing assessments. They're like, no or yes. If they say yes, I'm like, you need to schedule it and get it taken out. And they're like, but my tooth doesn't even bother me. I said, it doesn't matter. It's infected. And then every single time they go, first off, it's hard to find a dentist that'll pull them. So you have to go to get a good biological dentist to understand what's going on. And you can find one at IAOMT.org. That stands for the International Academy of Toxicology and Medicine. I can't even say it. Anyway, that's IAOMT.org or .com, I think. And you'll find a good dentist in your area, a biological dentist. Try to find one that's been doing it for 20, 30 years that hasn't just jumped in recently to make a bunch of money. So anyway, they'll pull the tooth, and then every client sends me pictures. They're like, dude, my tooth was so rotten and infected every single time. Every single time that they've pulled that tooth, it's massively infected, even if it doesn't bother them. So why is that a big deal? Well, if you're dealing with cancer, and your immune system's already taxed because the Marines are over there dealing with this systemic infection all the time, that would be the white blood cells. They're not dealing with the cancer. So we want to remove that problem, so then the immune system can reroute itself and start working on your cancer. Dr. Clement told me not once or twice, but hundreds and hundreds of cases at his institute. When people come in with cancer, they ask them, do you have root canal? And if they do, they send them immediately down the street to get them pulled. These people just flew thousands of miles and paid thousands of dollars, and then they're sending them off to do that. He said, put them on the lifestyle. As soon as the tooth's pulled, the cancer flips and goes away. So it's a big deal. That's number two. Number three is cavitation. So when you have teeth removed, especially like your wisdom teeth, unfortunately, dentists will leave behind a little bit of some material, right? Like some ligaments or a tendon in there, and it will get infected, and you won't even know it. And then you'll have the same effect going back in your jaw. You have these this cavitation. Now, unfortunately, most dentists don't know how to read the screens or the films to look at it. And so I learned this because I had a gal that was super sick. She wasn't feeling good, and she's doing the lifestyle, doing the diet, the supplements, growing sprouts, saunas. I mean, she's doing everything you possibly could. She got better, but she just couldn't get better, right? She was still white and pasty. She learned about cavitation. That's how I learned about it, was from a client. She went and got a major surgery on one tooth. Then she got a major surgery on the other tooth. This is from her molars. All four of them had infections. Did the third one. And when the fourth one was done, boom, the color came back to her face and she started healing. She had permanent infection in 4 areas in her mouth. So look for cavitation. And the last one is structure and alignment. So you want to make sure your teeth are aligned, because an alignment can throw off those meridian points and stuff. So those are 4 things to look at real quickly when you're looking to improve your health. And you got the teeth are really important to look at.
You're pretty knowledgeable with your information. You've been, do you think that comes with helping so many different clients and hearing their stories, and then you going back and?
Oh yeah, dude. I freaking geek out on this stuff all day long. That's all I do. I don't know. It's like I found my passion. You know, I was like, all my friends were like, because I do this business for 2 years, and I do that business for 2 years. And even if I was making good money, I'm like, not so much interested. And my friends like, dude, will you just pick a career? And, and then I got into one. I stayed longer because I was making a bunch of money. And then I got out of that because I wanted to do something with more residuals. And so I was a financial advisor at the very end. And then finally I left those businesses to do this because this was fun. This was way more fun. I would rather help somebody, teach them how to grow sprouts or make a green juice than, help them with their money. It was more exciting to me. I couldn't wait to get home and teach classes. I would go on the weekends for 5.5 years, dude. I for the first 2 years, I bought food for everybody that came over to my classes. I didn't charge anybody nothing. I was just so excited to teach people these processes. And
well, it's so life-changing when you went through it with your friend there. It's like, just seems like you're the type of person, you're probably an Enneagram 7 if you're familiar with Enneagram, and you just want to share this revelation you've had with others and help them.
Yeah, because people are being duped. They're being, there's this race for the cure and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, the cure's inside of us. It's called the frickin' immune system. We just got to get the chemical toxins out of the way, clean up the gut, build back the bacteria, flood the body with nutrients, start blocking these EMFs. There's a lot of other little things to do.
Sure.
Get your water straight, and then start, following your highest excitement, working on self, putting self first, getting your relationships right, all these things. So, we really work on that. And then, another thing we learned was that in 60 to 70% of the cases, people coming to me, the reasons why they were eating all these crappy foods, besides of the chemical additives put in and the addictive nature, is because they had a tremendous trauma, especially from childhood, where their dad threw them through a window or threw them over a fence or threw them off a roof, or mom was a drug addict and she brought boys over that molested you. These types of stories that I heard. And then I teach our clients how to reframe that stuff and let that become their empowerment so that they can go on and then start living their life at their highest excitement. And it's so I got into this, thought I was going to be just a health coach and teaching people what to eat, but underneath it all, it's really the emotional components that are actually more powerful than the foods.
And you incorporate meditation in your daily routines?
Meditation and a gratitude practice, being grateful. So powerful.
Nice.
And
And
I'm not even perfect. I'm still figuring it out. I mean, like meditate, I'd sit there for a while. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? But I just kept doing it. They said, just stick there. And then I actually listened. I read the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And then that kind of helped me. And then, I didn't think of his meditation there for a while. I was just like, clear my mind. And then
yeah.
what he said was, I don't know if you remember this. Have you read that book?
I've read his other one. I do mean to read that one, but I read his other one.
Yeah, it's really good. I totally recommend it to everybody listening. Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
Yeah.
Living in the present, because the past doesn't exist, the future doesn't exist. If you're always in the past and the present, you're always traveling, and all you have is right now, right now, right now, right now, right now, right now, what's right in front of you. And if you don't focus on what's in front of you, you're missing out on the full experience of life. So when I was sitting down doing meditation, what I learned from him is he said, these thoughts are going to come by, and a lot of these other places that online were telling me just push the thoughts out and block them and just have a clear mind, but I couldn't stop them. They were coming in. What he said to do was like, picture those thoughts, look like a cat looking at a mouse hole on the side of a wall, and you looking in that mouse hole, waiting for the mouse to come out, which would be the thoughts. And when you do that, so now I'm like, I sit down, I clear my mind, I'm just waiting for the thoughts. And guess what? They started going away because I was present. I was really focused on waiting for them to come in. I was just in that moment. I was looking at the mouse hole. All my attention was on the mouse hole, waiting for them to come in. And when my attention was there, it wasn't out other places thinking about, what I was going to have for lunch or what somebody did bad to me or whatever else. And it totally shifted my meditation practice, and it really helped me to really get what I was looking for, which was like just that clearing my mind out.
Clearing your mind. Yeah. Yeah. That's
It was a
powerful.
very profound stuff.
I,
That book's amazing.
yeah. Yeah. A New Earth was a life-changing book for myself, which is his other book. So Power of Now was written before that. And I definitely have heard that a bunch of times to read that. So it's on my list. That's really good. I'm a newly meditation teacher, and meditation is a big part of why I started this podcast. And I've actually never heard that analogy before. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome, man.
That makes total sense. For those people that literally the number one thing that I hear from everybody is, I have too many thoughts. I can't meditate. They just
I
keep coming
know
and I
it's hard in the
figure.
beginning when you don't have a tactic or a tool.
Yeah. And then then it becomes kind of annoying and you're like, I can't do this. Then you just get up and quit and just don't never come back to it, which, um, all we're doing in meditation is trying to quiet our thoughts. And
Yeah.
that's like you said. So
Another thing that worked for me too was really cool is like there's these older people in their 70s and 80s. And my girlfriend and I, Rebecca, we would just go over and they have the meditation deal. And we would talk a little bit, and all of a sudden people just kind of be quiet. And we'd sit there for about 45 minutes to an hour in a room and just complete silence. And it was really powerful because I realized I'm like, well, I can't go anywhere. I don't want to make any noise. So I just sat there, and it just kind of, by osmosis, you just start getting good at it. And
I
then
mean,
I
in a
was,
group setting is what you're
yeah,
saying?
just a small group. We had like, I don't know, 8 or 10 people, and we just sat around on couches and chairs. And all of a sudden we just got really quiet. And then all of a sudden, after about 45 minutes to an hour, somebody would break the silence and we'd start talking about stuff. And sometimes it would be one person, we would focus on them. Sometimes it would go all the way around. And it was just an interesting little deal.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. Hopefully we can do that again sometime when this COVID stuff starts winding down a little bit.
Yeah.
Getting groups of 10 or more again.
Well, don't even get me started on that. If you'd like to have me back on, we can go deep onto COVID, but it's really important that people understand that it's not even close to as bad as what the media would like to let you think, at all. This is a ploy to get, I don't even want to get into it because it's just like, it gets me upset, but the main focus doesn't need to be fearing people, because when you're in fear, you lower your immune system. The main focus right now, hopefully the best thing from COVID, is that people understand we need to focus on how do we boost the immune system, because the immune system is what's going to protect you and keep you well. And there's
Yeah, if
plenty of
you
natural ways to keep yourself healthy from COVID. And if it gets really bad, you can do a high dose vitamin C IV, and that'll pretty much knock it out. So it's not a lot and you could take hydroxychloroquine with zinc or budesonide with zinc. There's, like I said, I can go deep on this stuff. I usually don't recommend pharmaceutical drugs at all, but in some circumstances I will. In this case, I will, because there's so much fear around this.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to do to help with fear is just stop watching the news every single day or whatever. That definitely will
turn
help,
them off. They're terrible they're dividing the country. The news is the problem. They're really the problem. Just shut them off.
Yeah, interesting.
And they should tune into you. That's what they need to do. Shut off the news and tune into you and meditate. Go out in nature.
Yeah, I try to avoid any political talk or any for the most part. I mean, I couldn't avoid it during the election, but so yeah, exactly. When we talk about nature, we talk about that. And actually, it's a good reminder that today I need to get out in nature. It's a beautiful day out, and I'm going to do that an afternoon walk for sure today.
Yeah.
So I appreciate
one of the best
that.
medicines. The best medicine is nature. Putting the fresh nature in your body and just getting outside. There's the Chinese to have that's a medicine they do. They just take people out on walks and they get out in nature, and they don't bring cell phones with them or any of that stuff. They just go out in nature and just be. The power of now will help you with that too.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Tim, so much. If you can go back to your 18-year-old self and tell him anything, what would you tell him?
Stop putting all the toxins in your body. That would be number one. But number two, back when I was 18, I actually was following my highest excitement, but I didn't really have awareness around that. So what I teach people now is like, put yourself first, lead by example, and follow your excitement. Follow what brings you the most joy. And it doesn't have to be a big career thing. It could be a little thing like going for a walk, like you're going to do this afternoon, or calling a friend, or going for a drive. Whatever you have the best ability to take action on in that moment, do it until you can no longer take action on it. And then when that's over, look around for the next thing that's the most exciting for you and do that. I have learned that is the absolute map for your life. It's so simple. There's no questions anymore. That's it. So whatever the higher mind says, God, he, she, it, whatever you want to think about it, that excitement is how the higher mind, or God, he or she, or whatever you want to call it, communicates to our physical mind on what we're supposed to do. And I've been practicing this for 3 years now. And let me tell you what, it works. And when you do this, synchronicity comes into your life like crazy. The right people at the right time, at the right place, and money and gifts and things and ways that you wanted to accomplish things come to you in ways you wouldn't even expect it. But be excited about it, because things are about to change for you.
Thank you for that, Tim. I appreciate that advice. That's gold. That is
awesome.
All right, I will press stop here. Oh, you know what? Actually, before I press stop, let me have you give an opportunity here to what are you working on now that you want people that you're trying to get out as much as possible to make people aware of how they can be healthier?
Well, I guess the thing would do is just work on those core 4 secrets that we shared, and then try out some of our products. So we actually put, and a lot of people, when they go to our website, it's chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com. We have a few products in there. So they're like, what do I start with? So go to the products tab, go to the savings bundle so you can get a discount. And then you can start off with the Jumpstart bundle, or you can do what I do on a daily or monthly basis, which is the total energy and detox bundle, or anywhere in between. Just grab something that resonates with you. And then when they go to checkout, if they type in Mindful Impact, they can get another discount. They get an additional 5% off. So double discount. And we have a double your money back guarantee on all of our products, because we're very confident that they're going to work for you. All of our products are raw, wild crafted, no slave labor, everything sun dried or air dried under 110 degrees to keep the enzymes active. It's the real deal. And there's no magnesium stearate, no silicon dioxin, no dicalcium phosphate in any of our products. It's just pure nature. So I would do that. Core 4 secrets, try one of our savings bundles, use the discount code Mindful Impact and start there. And then if they want, they can get a free 30-minute consult with me. And we have private one-on-one coaching. And we also have a private group coaching where I go live every Wednesday and I do live Q&A. And every second Wednesday of the month, Dr. Treadway comes on and we do Talk with the Doc. And there's a lot more in that back office, that private coaching page for people. We have tons of resources and stuff.
That's awesome. I appreciate what you do, making people healthier, feeling better, recovering, healing, all that, man. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thanks for having me on, brother.